Welcome back to the Gold Standard. Another early morning for us this morning as Australia took on Serbia, this time at Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi. Really good performance from Brian Goorjian's men. Come away winners 83-73, the final score in front of a big and loud crowd as well. Paddy Mills, a big story from this game, 28 points. Dante Exum had 15 points and a couple of key names not playing for the Serbians. As you can imagine, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm Jack Heverin, Andrew Bogut, Brad Newley alongside me. Gentlemen, good morning to you both. That felt like a really, really good preparation leading into the Olympics.
Yeah, very much so. I was really intrigued by this matchup just to see how we go when we have to grind things out and play in that half court. And I think this game was won defensively. Obviously, Paddy Mills had a huge night. He's found his 3-point range. Got to the free throw line a lot. A lot of fouls by the Serbians didn't help. But I think the defensive end for us, if we guard at that level, it just takes so much pressure off our offense. I think this game is a 25-plus point win if we don't turn the ball over. Not just that we had 17 turnovers, they had 15, so that was pretty close. But we gave them live ball turnovers, so it felt like every time we turned the ball over, they were running down and getting easy layups. At least 10 of those turnovers were leading to easy baskets. That's 20 points right there. So this was a flattering score for the Serbians, but a really good performance defensively for the Brunners.
Yeah, I mean, the way we swarmed as well. I thought we were a little bit undersized versus the big fella Jokic and down there, and the guys, everyone was attracted to him, and we didn't give up too many wide-open corner three balls, which I thought was a really good job to rotate like that. I thought the pressure up the floor was great. Didn't let them just walk it down and run their half-court set like we expected them to do. So I definitely think we had our DNA written all over that game, and the guys performed to a very high standard.
And the Serbians, 3 for 22 from three doesn't help. You know, they shot like we did against the US, so they couldn't buy a three, which helped our defense. We could get up the floor even more and fly around in those rotations and kind of live and die by them not knocking down those threes.
A couple of key names didn't play for Serbia, as I mentioned. No Bogdanovic, no Jovic. They played a few days earlier against France. But I just want to hit on a point that you two touched on yesterday that was really important, to go back to what we've witnessed this morning in terms of that game, the way that it was played, the intensity, the officiating, everything about it. How relevant is that now as we lead into the Olympics?
I think it was really important. It was a super, super physical game. That was one thing that really stood out to me, the difference between the first game and the second game. There was a lot of physicality off the ball, on the ball. And I think, that was as close to an Olympic round game as possible. One of the guys that was out, Jovic, he's normally quite a good defender. He would probably pick up our guards a little bit tighter. So we probably got a little bit lucky there. So that's something down the track, if we face them again, we might have to deal with.
Yeah, great. It was a great lead-up game. This game, to me, much more important than the US game, just to get a good flow of how the games are going to be officiating. We saw the Serbians take some kind of strategic take fouls at certain times to stop our fast break. You know, those are the kind of things the Euros are going to do that the Team USA is not going to do, right? So that they play kind of between the ears a lot more. The Serbians, interesting enough, were trying to push the pace as well. You heard their bench yelling, push the ball, pace. So I found that interesting, trying to run with Australia. But it looked like towards the end of that game, when we kind of ran on top of them, that they were fatigued. I think we're in better shape than most teams. We have athletes. The amount of deflections that we got at the defensive end was huge. I mean, Nick Kay, these kind of guys, Jock, even Giddy was getting his hands, Dyson Daniels, Dante Exum. I mean, we were just kind of getting a piece of every pass. It felt like, even if they didn't turn it over. So real disruptive. And like I said earlier, if we can make our staple at the defensive end, it takes so much pressure. We don't have to come down that other end and score. We could have, bad possessions offensively. If we're like, all right, who cares? We're going to go back and get a stop. It takes so much pressure off your offense.
Two key names to speak about from this game. Firstly, Paddy Mills, because we spoke about him a lot yesterday, and those who listen to Gold Standard and watch this show clearly picked it up. It was written about in a lot of outlets yesterday about Paddy and where he sits right now. He answered back, and Bogues, you said this yesterday on the show, that he is a slow starter at a lot of these tournaments. Well, this was a far better showing. 28 points, 7 of 13 from the field, knocked down 2 threes early that kind of set the tone for his game.
And got to the free throw line, 10 for 11 from the free throw line. I think that always helps you as well. He did knock down his first couple of shots and then got to the line. The thing I think with Paddy is that we've seen with the national team, he's either really good or really bad. I think throughout this campaign, probably just need more consistency from him. I I don't think we need him to score 28. What do you have today? 28 every game. That'd be nice. Like if you can do it every night, fantastic. We take it, right? But I think it's those ups and downs that we're seeing probably in the World Cup and in the lead-up games. If he can consistently give us 15 to 20 at a good clip. Today, I thought he was really good with his decision making. In the first game, I thought he threw the ball away a lot. Today, 5 assists to 2 turnovers with 28 points. We're not going to get that performance from him every night. We're also not going to get the USA performance from him every night, right? So I think the balance is somewhere in the middle. If he can consistently be a threat for us at 15 to 20 points a night, balanced in with everything else that we have, I think that's the perfect ratio for the Booners.
Newells, I know you were really taken with the performance of Dante Exum. He's someone that you really wanted to talk about this morning. 15 points. He was plus 16 on his time on the floor. His energy was undeniable off the bench. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, what really impressed me about Dante yesterday was his defense. He was up and in on the ball, causing problems with deflections like we just touched on. But going back down the other end, his continual heat on the rim provides, say he might miss the lay, but it provides an offensive rebound for someone like a Jocko to keep, good pressure on the basket. And he's also shooting the ball at a pretty good clip. His confidence playing against those European teams is super high because he's played a couple of seasons of EuroLeague, so he's got a bit of a reputation over there. And I was just impressed by his impact he had because we talked about potentially someone like Paddy coming off the bench and the gunner role, but maybe it's a little bit different. We have Dante coming in there putting pressure on the rim and leaving the lineup as it is. So yeah, I thought he was great. He's when he played a little bit of point guard as well, he's comfortable out there in that position. And yeah, just his continual pressure on the rim just provides us with something different.
Yesterday on the show, we spoke about, as you say, Paddy coming off the bench. It's only one game, but any change on opinions based off what we spoke about yesterday? Do we like the look of Paddy starting now, or would we still prefer him to come off the bench and Dante start? What do we think?
Yes, it's negated by they're taking. Today, Giddy came out early. I think against the US, Paddy came out early. Then he came back late in the first quarter. So this my concern is just playing Paddy and Giddy for long stretches together. I just don't think that worked at the World Cup. I don't think it's going to work long term. And I think Gorge's formula to figure that out has been, okay, if we don't start Paddy on the bench or Josh on the bench, we can start them both. One of them's going to come out within the 6.5 minute mark. Josh came out with 3 minutes into the game. He was on the bench. Then Josh came in for Paddy late in the first quarter. So they've split the minutes strategically that way. So that works. That works. But, it's neither here or there. I just like Paddy's scoring punch. If it's continued like this and they split the minutes the way they are, I can definitely live with it. But my concern was if they were going to play those 2 long stretches, then I would like to split them up by having one starting on the bench. But obviously, Gorge's figured that out with splitting their minutes quickly.
It's a little bit lineup based too on the opponent, like who they might play, like whether they feel like the matchup, it could be a matchup issue that they might need to potentially switch that around. But it definitely worked last night. And like Bogues touched on, if Paddy's having to drop 20 plus every game and he does that, well, I think we're going to do pretty well. But the consistency side of things is probably a bit more easier to live with.
And we saw today, Paddy got hot, so then all of a sudden the sub pattern changed a little bit. You saw Gorge, then maybe leave him out there an extra 2 or 3 minutes than you usually would if he wasn't hot, and that's the way to go. I think that's how you play a Paddy Mills. It's you're playing between 20 and 30. It gets you're hot. It's getting closer to the 30s, maybe the low 30s. If you're not, it's closer to the high teens, low 20s, which you saw against the USA. And I think that's the right balance to have. I think they figured that out pretty well in these lead-up games.
What about Duop Reith? We didn't see him in this game. Will Magnay had his hands full for a lot of his time on the floor trying to wrestle with Nikola Jokic, but we didn't see Duop Reith at all. And just judging from some of the fans' comments when I woke up first thing this morning and read them, that was one of the biggest question marks of the game for a lot of fans. What do we think is happening here?
I just think sometimes it's international basketball. Like there's games where guys just don't play and matchups don't suit. I wouldn't be reading a whole lot into it. I think just Magnay obviously is doing a better job at training and they feel like his role is a little bit more important defensively. I'm sure there'll be games where Duop will be needed with his scoring ability. So I wouldn't be reading too much in it. But that's just, like I said, it's international basketball. And there's games where some guys come in and have, 10 really good minutes. Like we see that with Delhi sometimes and even Joe. Like they come in with those quick impacts. It's just the way it is. It's not like a club system.
Yeah, and I think Magnay and Jock are roll guys. Screen and roll, hand off and roll, put pressure on the rim. They can both catch the lob and throw it down. I think Dewap's role is more of a pick and pop five, and it just doesn't fit that well in this offense. With all the stuff we're running downhill, we need a five to roll consistently to open up that floor. If we all of a sudden have Dewap out there, pick and pop, then we've got five out on the perimeter standing, I think it screws up our spacing a fair bit. And at the defensive end, Dewap versus Magnay. Magnay's a better defender, so I think they're gone with that route. But like Newell said, there'll be a game where Jock picks up 2 quick fouls. All of a sudden, Magnay has to get in there earlier than he usually is. Maybe he gets a foul or two. He's going to play eventually, but there's 12 guys. You can't play them all. Dewap, Joe, Delly are probably the 3 guys that are going to be playing spot minutes for this whole tournament that I doubt they're ever going to get into the double-digit minutes. But when they're out there, they need to be ready. And Dewap just needs to look to Delly to take that lead of when I get my opportunity, go as hard as I can for those couple of minutes, and maybe I earn some down the end of the tournament.
Even in this game against Serbia, we saw Matthew Dellavedova, again, Newell's come in for 3 or 4 minutes, couple of rebounds, knocked down a nice corner 3, had an impact. I think it's pretty clear he understands his role.
Yeah, it's actually really enjoyable to see him come in and do that. Like he's not a guy who needs 20 shots to get going or anything like that. He just comes in, he'll pick him up full court, he'll make the extra pass, he'll make a good foul. It's enjoyable to see him just taking that in. And I know Delly personally, he'll be sitting there going, I want to be out there more. That's just his mentality. But it's just great to see. And he's another guy you could roll out. He could sit there for 37 minutes, and we're running an out-of-bounds play or something like that. He'll go in there and just execute it like that because he's just used to doing that with all his experience. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying him in that role.
So now we've had the 2 warm-up games. It all comes down to what is on the road next for the Boomers, and that is the Olympics. On the other side of this, we talk about what shape the team is in heading into the France campaign, and we also talk about the games coming up. But, of course, don't forget Hoops Fest, not too far away. But before that, the NBL Blitz is the ultimate way to start off this season.
Today is a historic day for the sport of basketball and for the state of Western Australia.
That's ridiculous! Ross Coleman is very, very best!
We are unleashing a new, powerful movement in basketball where the whole sport comes together under Hoops Fest, the first ever time this has been held.
Thanks for being with us on the Gold Standard. Andrew Bogut, Brad Newley and Jack Heverin. We've now had our 2 warm-up games against Team USA and Serbia. Before we look ahead to the Olympics, just in closing, I guess, now off what we've seen, what sort of shape is this team in headed into the campaign? Are we happy with the way it looks?
Yeah, I think you iron out the kinks. They're still figuring things out with their lineups. I think it's starting to solidify itself with, as we spoke about earlier, with the rotations and minutes and all that kind of stuff. I think, like I said, we're going to, our bread's going to be buttered at the defensive end. I think if we can continue to have that mindset, it just gets us in a flow. We can get out and run. Obviously, we have a few more games before we get to the Olympic tournament. The biggest thing is staying healthy. So I think you'll see perhaps these next couple of lead-up games, we might rest some guys that maybe have a niggle or two, or we might try some different things later on in those games. I don't think Gorge is going to play, his top 9 heavy minutes leading in all of those games, much like kind of Serbia rested 2 guys last night. It would be similar for us. So the biggest thing for me is no injuries, making sure we're fresh. Now it's that barometer of, we're going to have that dial of, we want to get a flow and a nice feel going into the tournament, but we don't want guys to have heavy legs, be tired, or pick up an injury. So it's a tricky one for Gorge because you want guys feeling good about themselves, playing minutes and feeling in a flow, but you also don't want guys carrying a corky or an injury or all that kind of stuff. And there's no right, as Newell knows, there's no right formula for it. Like if you play guys too much minutes leading up and someone gets hurt, everyone's going to be like, oh, they shouldn't have been playing. And then on the reverse side, if they didn't play much and then we have a stinker in one of the games, it's like, oh, they should have played more in the lead up. So it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But that's what I'm looking for, just an injury-free run to the Olympics.
Yeah, there's always like a little element of luck. But what I've enjoyed, like we touched on the defense as well, but there seems to be a clear brand of how we're trying to play. It's not like we're coming in some games, we might do this today, might do that. I think as long as we have a clear instruction, and from those 2 games, it's obvious that we're trying to play with a lot of pace. So as long as we stay with what we know and not try and do things we're not great at, I think if we just focus on that stuff, keep the defense going. And, yeah, there's a couple more lead-up games. Who knows what they'll look like. I believe they're behind. I'm not sure if they're televised or not, but those closed-door games, a lot of things can come out as well. So, in a good position, but, yeah, still early-ish days.
So I'll ask this question then on behalf of hundreds of thousands of Australian fans who are watching this show and are now casting an eye towards July 27 when it all starts against Spain. What should our aspirations and what should our intentions be? How far can this group go, do we think?
I think, the level that the program's got to now, it's gold medal standard. That's how they think. So anything short of that, I'm sure the guys, will be disappointed. So I know that's probably setting them up a little bit, and we've mentioned it'll be hard to get through to there. But I think that if they don't think that way, it won't have a chance to happen. So that's definitely needs to be the team's motto.
Yeah, your gold medal is always the goal. I think a short-term goal in this tournament for us is getting out of this group alive because it's a tough group, but it's get to the top four, and then it's a free roll, right? Like it's, as we saw tournaments I've been part of, it's a lucky bounce here or there for a team that we lost to or that we beat, and someone catches fire, ref makes a bad call. Those kind of things come into play once you're in the top four. You kind of create your own luck. So we just got to focus on our, our group play is going to be tough. And look, at the end of the day, we're facing tougher opponents earlier on. Yeah. So maybe we face a crossover match that's favourable if we get to the quarters, but it's going to be tough. We've got the toughest pool by far. We have to avoid that third place. I don't like that third place for us because of the percentage. The other two groups have some easy beats. We don't. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they come out and play. But we have a chance to do something special, I think, just with the way we've got a gritty, long, athletic group defensively that can cause some problems.
The thing with the Greeks and the Spanish, they've actually played they've played some serious games where their butts are on the line. So we haven't been in that situation as of yet. So that's something to be very mindful. That goes back to the group discussion. So probably going to touch on that a little bit now. Sorry, Jack. Just cutting.
No, not at all. No, it's a good point, and I wanted to sort of propose that as well, is that we go right back to our first show in the China games, that our lead up has kind of got more intense and more intense as we've gone, whereas you point out, Newls, some of these teams are going to be hitting the ground having already played for their life on a couple of occasions. Is that a factor?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they've been in the fire. They've been through it, so they're not worried about anything. And in a way, they're kind of like, well, we've got a free swing. We went through the qualifiers. These guys have known they're going to be in the tournament for a year. They're probably happy to be there. So I definitely think that's going to be a factor. I look back at the last Olympics. I think Slovenia went through that process. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But they were just informed right from the jump. So it's definitely something to be mindful of.
You see with a lot of teams that go through the qualifiers, I hate getting them in our group because they're in a flow. They're playing well. They're confident. They've beat teams that were good. That most of the European teams that are in that qualifier could easily qualify, even the ones that are knocked out, right? So you've seen it a lot the last couple of campaigns. Those qualifiers have snuck in and then actually gone into a quarters or even a semis in some cases, right? Like Slovenia. So yeah, our games aren't as, I would say, important at this point, which can hurt us a little bit.
How important is the first game then? With everything that we know about our group, Spain, Canada, Greece, it's really, really tough. I think everyone acknowledges that. How important is winning the first game, knowing that Canada's the second game?
Yeah, super key. Super key. You have to, if you can start out, and momentum's a beautiful thing. You could have a team that's not as talented, but if you get a good flow, good momentum, things are rolling. I think the tournaments I've been a part of previously, where we've started poorly, it's so hard to get it back. It's so hard because then all of a sudden you drop the first game, that second game against a good team, you feel it. You're like, we need to win this game. If we potentially lose this one, maybe we get third and then it's a crossover to the US, or even if we make it through with the current pool format. So got to start. It's cliche, but you have to start fast, hard. I think just early on for us, don't get in the bonus early, which has been an issue for us in the last couple of tournaments. Don't give them the bonus early to give them easy free throws. With the Euro flopping and flailing around, they do a good job of getting to the free throw line, and don't turn the ball over early. So if we do those two things, I'm confident that our defense will get stops at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to go back and look at the statistics or the numbers on when Australia's gone through to, the quarters or the semis, if they actually won their first game or not. I'm not sure. I think Sydney was probably the only one. I think we lost to Canada or something in the first round. We ended up making the semis. But yeah, like my experience was, if we drop that first game, we're in a dogfight and you end up in a crossover with the USA. I mean, the format has changed a little bit now. But yeah, like I said, the first game, it's huge. And like we talk about the aspirations of the team and all those kind of things, that within those walls, that all they'd be thinking about would be Spain. And I wouldn't be surprised they use these next few games to defend how use it as a bit of a scouting kind of for the way they're going to play against the Spanish.
July 27 against Spain, July 30 against Canada, and August the 2nd against Greece is what lies ahead for the Boomers in this Olympic campaign. We will be with it right the way through the tournament here on the Gold Standard. Gentlemen, both of you, well done. Great job. It's been a couple of early mornings in a row for all of us, so go and get a bit of sleep, and we'll get back together in the lead up to the first game.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for being with us on the Gold Standard. Of course, nbl.com.au is where you need to head to get all the latest news and information on the Boomers ahead of that first game. Go Aussies.